And well, I guess I guess we'll start. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle Hausman, the artistic director of Miami New Drama. We're a theater company located in the heart of Miami Beach and South Beach on Lincoln Road. We are a little bit of a different company than most theater companies. We mainly produce world premiere plays or musicals. And in that spirit, we have at the moment in hibernation the Colony Theater, a world premiere musical called A Wonderful World, that written by Oren Squire, that you might have seen one of his lectures here, and directed by Chris Renshaw. You might have seen one of his lecture here. And one of the most exciting moments of the show is the moment when DeWitt Fleming enters the stage and tap dances. That moment is, and listen, I've been in theater a long time. You know, I've seen audience reaction, but the reaction of the audience is something similar to a basketball game when, you know, somebody, you know, basketball is not my game, so I'm going to make all the wrong names. but when, you know, when the last points, when the team finally wins, is that, you know, that final home run, that's sort of what the type of reaction from audience when they see DeWitt dancing. And in that spirit, before I give the screen to DeWitt, Jess, can we just show the clip of DeWitt dancing? Okay, we can't hear it.
But first, I'm gonna do some stepping.
Unreal, unreal, unreal. So we have here today DeWitt Fleming. Also, just to review, DeWitt is the only artist to have recorded with Jazz at Lincoln Center an album that features tap. So the very prestigious Jazz at Lincoln Center has the only album with live music and tap. And it's available to be purchased now. We'll share the link. You can also Google it. But without further ado, the wonderful DeWitt Fleming. Welcome, Mr. Fleming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's just seeing it again. It's just something visceral about tap that you know, I'm not a big connoisseur of dance, even though I'm in theater and I sort of know the Merce Cunningham, etc. But so I don't know. I don't come at dance with the knowledge that I have of other art forms. But just seeing you perform, I can see the structure, the craft, but also there is this thing that I can't describe of joy, of amazement at seeing you perform, and it's outstanding. How did you get into dancing?
Well, it's funny. I didn't start dancing until I was about 17 years old. I went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, which is in Washington, D.C., where I grew up. And our senior year, we started learning tap dancing for musicals. And at that point, I still, you know, I really wasn't into it per se, because it was very basic, grapevine and, you know, really generic steps, and it really didn't get into the rhythms of it. And then I saw a show, Bring the Noise, Bring the Funk, and it opened my eyes to the possibilities of what tap could do, because I hadn't seen that side of it yet. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Because it reminded me, I started drumming when I was 12 years old. I was in a jazz band in junior high school and a concert band. And it just reminded me of all those rhythms and all those things that I learned, that I was playing drums in church. And I was like, oh, I can hear all this stuff and you can do it with your feet. That's crazy. And so I really fell in love with it and just kind of went head first. Yeah.
And so listen, you are a man, and you're also a man of color.
Yeah.
And you know, Miami is a city in which 80% are, you know, are non-white Anglos. So we
Right.
are minority majority. So, you know, how hard was it for you to, first as a man and a person of color, to decide that you wanted to professionally be a dancer?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have to thank, you know, my mom for the support that she gave me, because that was key. Especially growing up in the neighborhood. I grew up in Washington D.C. It was pretty bad, and you know, I kind of hid it at first, coming back to school, even that I was acting, because even that, you know, some of the things you have to do and dress up. And you know, we started movement and dance classes, you know, when I was like 15. And so you kind of hid that stuff when you came home, because, you know, you got teased and, you know, you had to, you know, get into fights and all that stuff. So it was definitely hard. But the thing is, the great thing about my school was that we were there most of the time. I mean, I was there from 8:30 in the morning until, matter of fact, it was like 8 in the morning, actually, until maybe like 5:30 at night. And that's when we didn't have a show. If we had a show we were rehearsing for, I could be there up until 10, 11 at night. And so the good thing about it is I didn't have a chance to even intermingle with those people that might, you know, interfere with what I was doing. So, because I would go to school in the morning and then come straight home because it was so late. So that kind of helped in the sense that I didn't have to directly deal with that peer pressure and that bullying. And thankfully, like I said, I had the support of my mom, who I was living with. And so it was just, that was extremely important. But it was hard even when I went to college. I mean, because people, especially, I went to Marymount Manhattan College in New York. And it was even hard because people have a certain perspective of tap dance. I mean, now it's kind of, you know, fading away. But back then, tap dancing, especially by Black people and minorities, wasn't looked upon as something that was, what's the word? Honorable, for lack of a better word, to be doing, given the history of the dance. And so that was...
Tell us a little bit about the history of the dance.
Well, most people only know about what they have seen on TV or what they have heard. And they don't understand the true history of where tap came from. And that I had to learn that later in, you know, in my college years, because I had to keep dealing with people saying stuff like Sambo or Uncle Tom and stuff like that. And so I said, well, wait a minute. This can't be right. Like this, the way I feel about this dance can't be wrong. And so I did all of this research, and honestly, I had to do a research of American history, African-American history, to really understand the ins and outs of this dance, because this dance grew out of culture. And so, long story short, because I could take hours talking about this. Long story short is that tap dance is a direct root of preservation of African culture. And so at the very root of it, it has grown from other cultures into what we have today, from different cultures from around the world. But of course, you know, when the slaves got here, everything was stripped of them: their language, their culture, their art, everything. And tap dancing is one of the few things, it wasn't called that before, of course, sure, but tap dance was the one of the few things that they were able to preserve. And they were able to do this by letting the slave masters believe that they were stupid, and that they were silly and playful. And so by doing that, they were able to preserve a part of their culture. And so that's the short end of the answer.
It's interesting. You know, we did a show at Miami New Drama the season before called Viva la Parranda. It's the first time we did a Spanish language show in the main season. And the show was about and starring a group of musicians, Afro-Venezuelan musicians from a very particular part of Venezuela that sort of kept a lot of their culture, you know, as a heritage generation to generation, and their dance that then became sort of, you know, popularizing Venezuelan culture in general. Was very much, you know, a type of dance mainly with your feet. And there was a beautiful moment and a heartbreaking moment in the show where we invite everybody and join and dance, and everybody's dancing, and then one of the performers says, "Oh yes," and so, you know, this dance became like that because you know slaves would have the shackles, and so they could only move a little bit their feet, and so that's how this dance came about. And then it was this really extraordinary, uncomfortable, like art should be, in which there's a bunch of people dancing, and then suddenly you realize that you're really dancing in the shoulders of people who didn't really want to dance that way in the first place. But it's interesting how, you know, how African culture found a way of getting, in every country where there was the African diaspora, it found a way of getting that culture into the mainstream in ways that until you go ahead and do the research, you wouldn't know.
Right. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing because, you know, most people don't even have a perspective of Africa until after slavery.
Right.
And what most people don't realize is that Africa was a thriving country way before that, and was trading and trading cultures, trading goods, and communicating with the world hundreds of years before that.
Sure.
You know, so it's really interesting once you really start digging and you know finding stuff.
Absolutely. And so you were in Marymount Manhattan College. You decided that dance was going to be your one concentration. And then how?
Well, not entirely. So I studied acting at Marymount Manhattan College.
Oh.
Yeah. So I started acting when I was 13 or 14. I just kind of it came from, honestly, like kind of like a bet from my sister. I was in junior high school, and I was, you know, in the band, but I was always this silly and just a whole bunch of energy and always, you know, getting on people's nerves, as my sister would say. And so they had a Christmas play, and they needed a dancing Santa. And pretty much all the dancing Santa would do is get up on stage and dance around, you know, to Christmas music. And so my sister said, "Well, I bet you won't go up there and audition since you're always acting crazy and silly anyway." And I said, "I will do it." And then I got up there, and, you know, just no conscious of how anything works. I just got up there and just started acting silly. And then, you know, all the kids started laughing and going crazy. And then I was just like, "Oh, this is cool. I can just act silly on stage and not get in trouble for it. This is amazing." And then from there, I said, "Well, I want to join the drama club." And then that's when I was like, "Oh, there's more to it than this." And then so that kind of started me into acting. I went to the art school for acting, and then I went to Marymount Manhattan College for acting. And tap dancing, I mean, no one goes to school for tap dancing back then. You know,
Right.
There's only one school I know of now that you can actually get a degree in tap dancing, and that's Oklahoma University. But tap dancing, I kind of learned on my own. I mean, I didn't have the money to take classes. You know, I didn't have the money to really train with anybody. There was a few people that I'm thankful for that were able to pull me to the side and show me some things. But most of my knowledge came from looking at videotapes and going to, back then in New York, there were different clubs you can go to, and they had these big tap jams. And there were people from all around the world that would come and dance. And that's where I kind of learned, doing that, and hours and hours in front of my TV with the board like this I have behind me, and just watching.
And by the way, just so people know, that board will be used shortly.
Yes.
Okay. It will be used. It's not just there as a prop, but continue. Sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. So, I just had a little board that I made in the wood shop at the school, and I put it in front of my TV, and I popped all these VHS tapes in, and I would just learn as much as I could and try to pick up the stuff that they were doing. And it's so great when you're young and trying to learn something, because you have no limits, no boundaries, nothing holding you back. So you just go, and you don't care if it's right or it's wrong. You don't have anything in your ear saying like, oh, think about this, or your technique, or blah, blah, blah. You're just doing it. And I'm so thankful for that time that I had, because that's where I really was able to grow and really learn a lot and become stronger. And then I had to go back and reteach myself. But if I didn't have that initial, like, just uninhibited, just go and do, then I don't think I would have been able to get to where I am now.
It's very interesting to read, in a lot of conversations that we've been having with other artists, whether they're actors or writers, etc., they first got into their discipline by nobody telling them that they couldn't. So they just started to write because why not? And they were just motivated. And that sort of thing of the youth of just thinking that you can actually do whatever you put your mind to is exactly what makes you then become a professional. It's sort of you have to be in a way ignorant of the big amount of work that it actually entails to do that, and just just start.
Yeah, I mean, that's the love. And I mean, you look at you look at theater and in most art forms. I mean, it wasn't about the performance aspects of it. It was about either communication with something outside of yourself, or communication with something inside of yourself. That's exactly where tap, kind of derived from. It was whether it was a communication to, the earth, communication to, a God of harvest, the communication to the people around you, and bringing community together.
Right.
It was all about that. So it was mostly joyous occasions. And it was very specific to that person, and nothing was wrong. I mean, when I teach my tap classes, I always tell people, I will never tell you something's wrong. Now, I can tell you how to do things more efficiently in the climate of art today, but I can't tell you something's wrong, because that's not where the dance comes from. There is no wrong. Yeah.
Well, it's a good segue then to go into the nitty gritty of this. Let's we've talked a little bit about dance. Now let's dance a little bit about dance. You want to show us some clips, or do you want to sort of, show us the first steps on, if you're somebody who wants to, to start tapping or to understand tap a little bit more? Tell us.
Absolutely. The first thing I say is I'm going to get up here, but I want people to really know that tap is very personal to each individual person, and so you it's something anybody can do. There's a famous tap dancer who's passed now. His name was Buster Brown, and he always said, if you can walk, you can tap dance. And basically, and that's true. If you can walk, you can tap dance. That's all you need. That's it.
And I'll say that this is the only week when I can't tap dance, because, as you know, I fell from my bicycle and I broke a bunch of bones, so I can't walk. So
right.
I'm not going to be a participant of the dance today, but you can. Those of you listening, there will be a time where, if you want, we can bring you up, and in the video we'll get specific points from DeWitt of what you're doing right and how you can improve. Anyways, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the most important thing is, when you walk, you have to balance yourself. If not, you're going to fall. So you have to keep that perspective. A lot of times people completely forget, their motor skills when somebody asks them to do something that they might feel like they can't do. So that's the first thing I always tell you. Walk. Remember how to walk. Remember how to walk. It's that simple, right? So the first thing I do is I ask people to try to connect with your sense of just a simple rhythm which is again walking. I want to keep saying walking because I want you to understand that it's that simple, right? I'm gonna use this mic just in case it's hard to hear. So first thing is just to get moving. Repetition is your friend. Repetition is your friend. I don't care what it is you're doing, just repetition. Repetition, repetition. It gets you out of your mind and it gets your body into this automatic kind of just way of doing things, right? So right now, I'm using my whole foot. So I'm just stomping, literally stomping. And that's it. And then you say, oh, well, maybe I can stomp in another way. So maybe I go. And just think of it. If you show a kid tap dancing and then they try to mimic it, what's the first thing they do? And that's absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. It's like speaking. When you first start speaking, you use what you have to convey the message or whatever you feel, whatever you're feeling. And then once that's not enough, then you start exploring other ways to communicate. So it's the same thing with tap. So once this is not enough for you, then you start exploring other things. And this is something that can be very personal, and it's not right or wrong at this point. It really isn't. So if this is not enough, let me start exploring what other things sound like. So this is a stomp. What if I just leave that heel up and I just do here, just a step? That sounds different. So now I have two ways of communicating. I have stomping and I have stepping. And so you can hear these two different sounds. Oh, okay. We're still walking. So it's a difference of walking flat-footed or walking on the balls of your feet. And then you take that and you expand on it. And you say, okay, so if I know this is flat foot walking, and it sounds like that, and then this is walking on the balls of my feet, and it sounds like that, maybe I can start expressing myself with just those two things. That's it. So then we might go, stop, go. Can you hear the difference in that, Michelle? Yeah?
Absolutely, I can. Absolutely. Two different sounds, yeah.
So that's where you can begin, right? So I'm going to step to the side so you can really see what's happening here. So I'm doing stop. Right? And then we can do the other side too, just to make sure. So now we have two frames of reference. Now, from those two frames of reference, I'm going to show you a time step. I know it seems like, wait a minute, that's impossible. There's no way you can show me a time step of what you just did. And I'm going to tell you I can. I'm going to tell you why. A time step is simply a step that keeps time. That's all it is. So I'm going to show you a traditional time step, which you've probably seen before. And I'm going to show you the more advanced version. Let's put it that way, right? This is what it has grown to be, but I'm going to show you what it originally was at first. This is what the time step you probably know now. That's the time step you're probably thinking about. However, that same time step, 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, came from this. All that involves is those two steps that I showed you earlier. That's it. That's it. Okay? So we're going to break that down so I can show you how to do that. Okay? So all it is, stomp, step, step, step. Now here's the tricky part. You're going to stomp twice. You're going to stomp with your right and then your left. Okay? So let's do this again. We started on this side, on the right side, and I'm going to turn around after this so you can see better. We start on the right, we just stomp, and then we did step, step, step. That's it. So we got 1, stomp, 2, 3, 4, right? So from the side, it looks like this. Stomp, 2, 3, 4. Got it? So now we're going to stomp, stomp after that. So we have stomp, 2, 3, 4. Now, what legs come after the left is the right. Stomp, stomp. And that's the time step. You're going to repeat that over and over again. So I'm going to turn around so you can see it from a better perspective. So watch this. We did stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. So once again, we did step, stomp, 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 step, step. Got it? Make sense? So that is a time step. Now, rhythm. So the rhythm of the time step is in a swing kind of a feel. You have to remember, tap dance is like the cousin of jazz. They came up in the same period. A lot of the things that you have in jazz are paralleled in tap dance. And one of the basic and main things is the rhythm and the timing and what's called a triplet. It leads to a swing feel. Again, this is from African traditions and culture. So that swing feel, the same thing that you have, that's the root of jazz, same thing with tap dance. So that swing feel. So the swing feel comes when it sounds like this. So that quick stomp, stomp is what gives you that swing feel. So you have stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. Make sense? So I'm gonna turn around so you can see that again. So you have stomp, step, step, stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. So let's try it. 1, I'm gonna stay this way so you can see it and you can do it with me. 1, 2, here we go. Stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. One more time and stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. One more time, here we go. Stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. Last time and step, step, stomp, stomp. Got it? All right, so now I'm gonna try the other side. Do I need to stop for any questions? Are we good? Okay.
I think we're going to have a time. We're going to have at the end of this hour, we're going to have a good 20 or 30 minutes of questions. So
perfect. All right, cool. All right, so now the left side, same exact thing, except you're going to start with your left side. So you have stomp, then you're going to step, 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 step. I'm sorry, I did too many steps. Stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. So it's the same thing, except you're starting with your left. Don't forget to walk. Don't forget to walk. So when you walk, what happens? You put right, left, right, left, right, left. You don't go right, right, left, left. Yes? So think of that. You go right, left, right, left, right, left. That's all it is. Only difference, you're adding that swing, that triplet in there. So stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. Got it? Now we're going to the left side. The same thing. 1, 2, here we go. Stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. I'm going to show you this way so you can see it. This is the left side. 1, 2, here we go. Stomp, step, 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 stomp, stomp. Got it? One more time. And stomp. One more time. Left side. Stomp. Step, 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 stomp, stomp. One more time. Here we go. Stomp. Step, 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 stomp, stomp. Okay? That is the time step from the right to the left. So you just do that over and over again. Okay? So take a sip of water. So this is what it looks like without the rhythm. If we would just do it straight, it looks like walking. It's as simple as that. That's it. Now, it's a matter of, think of if you're walking down the street and you're trying to catch the light. Your pattern of walking might be just step, and then light comes, and you want to speed up to catch the light. That's where your stomp's coming in. So we're just walking, the light's changing, and we want to speed up to catch the light. Got it? You're still walking, you're still putting right or left. Make sense? So we're going to try this right to left, really slow. So we have 1, 2, starting with the right foot and stomp. Step, step, catch the light. Step, step, catch the light. Stomp, stomp. Step, step, catch the light. Step, step, catch the light. Step, step. Got it? Makes sense? We're going to do that over again. I'm going to face this way so you can see it. Starting with the right side. 5, 6, 7, and. That's it. You just did a time step. That is it. That is a time step. Okay? So I'm going to show you the evolution of the time step, and then I'm going to show you one more step, which is called a shuffle. All right? So you'll walk out of here with 4 steps actually. You're going to have some information. You're going to have all you need to get started. Trust me. All right. So this is the evolution of the time step. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you from the basic what we did all the way up until what I showed you the very first time, what you remember as a time step. Watch this. That's it, right? So, you may ask, right? How did it get from this to all of this? And honestly, I credit that to people trying to outdo themselves or trying to outdo somebody else. Because that's what happens. It's creativity on top of creativity on top of creativity, and friendly battles and friendly exchanges. So if I came and someone said, and it's also survival, actually has another aspect up to it. So if I came and I said, and Michelle said, oh, that's cool, I can do that, but you know what, I can't do that because DeWitt already did it, and I want to come and I want to show them what I can do. So, you know what, let me. And they're going to say, wait, man, that's the same thing DeWitt did. I said, no, it's not, because I added this in. So it's different. DeWitt only did this. But this is mine. And it changes. It's different. And somebody else came behind Michelle and said, hey, you know, okay, well, I'm going to add another flat. And here we are today with tap dancing. Okay? So the next thing I'm going to show you is a shuffle. Now, this is another very, very basic step. So the shuffle, I'm going to show you the very technical version first, and then I'm going to show you where it came from. So today, what's going to help you the most is to always keep your feet in front of you. I always tell my students, keep your feet in front of you. The way dance has evolved and meshed with other art forms, especially art forms that are derived from ballet, it's going to be more beneficial for you to always keep your feet in front of you so you can hold your center and your core. So I'm going to show you the shuffle. The shuffle is 2 sounds, and the sounds come from the same place on your tap shoe or on your foot. You do not need tap shoes to tap dance, okay? These taps weren't created until after the 1900s, like the early 1900s. Before that, they had hard sole shoes, and that was it. Or they were barefoot even before that. So you do not need tap shoes, okay? So this part of your foot right here, hope you guys can see that. It's the front part. You see we got two metal taps. One is in the front, one is in the back. It's just like your foot. Like if you would have a hard sole, like we call it a church shoe. If you had a church shoe, you got a heel on the back of that church shoe, and then the front is flat, of course. So we're using just the front with the shuffle. That's it. So we're starting with our foot up, and we're going down, and we're hitting that front part, and then we're coming back and hitting that front part again. So again, we're going out, hitting that front part, and we're bringing it back up and hitting that same part. The heel, this part never hits the ground. The heel never hits the ground. Shuffle. That's how you can remember it because it's phonetic. Shuffle. Got it? So shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. That's called a shuffle. Okay, so you can practice that, and it's just hitting the first part of your toe, right? And then you can add a step to it. We already know that step, just put it down. So again, it's like walking. So once you do that shuffle on the right, put that foot down, pick up the other side, and do the same thing. It's just hitting that first part. Shuffle, step, and that's a step. So that's shuffle, step. Now, where did that come from? Before, the shuffle was simply here. You notice how my foot ended up back here. Because everything before tap was melted together in all the cultures and meshed with different techniques and styles from ballet and other dance forms. It was very much so about being into the ground. And everything was about giving your energy down to the ground. Because a lot of the rituals and a lot of the things that they did, where tap derived from, was about giving your respect to the earth and also waking the gods. In some cultures, they felt like the gods were of the earth. Okay? And so everything was about being down. And for that reason, your feet ended up behind you, just right? Just because of it's a balance thing. If you're down here, your foot's gonna be behind you. However, as we know in ballet and performance, you have to be up to face your audience. Make sense? So shuffles from before was from down here. So when we were doing, everything was from here. Make sense? I just like to give people perspective to see how it kind of evolved and where it came from. So we learned two things today. First and most important thing, anybody can tap dance. As long as you can walk, you can tap dance. It's your own personal expression. So do with it what you will. You have so many different sounds to play with. Okay? All different parts of your shoe make a different sound. They make a different sound. It's like a drum. You hit a drum on the edge, it's going to sound different than you hit it in the middle. It's going to sound different than when you hit it in the middle and between the edge. Also, at what angle are you hitting it? How hard are you hitting it? It's the same exact thing with tap. So that gives you an infinite amount of possibilities without having to know a lot of vocabulary. Your vocabulary is going to come once you get tired of saying the same thing over and over again and you've exhausted all of your ways to express yourself in that little bit of vocabulary you have. Then you start to grow. That makes sense? That's the first thing. Yeah? Second thing we learned was the time step. I'm going to show it to you again so you remember. It's just walking. Don't forget to walk. You have to walk. Try to balance yourself. Step 1, 2, 3. That was the time step we learned. And then the last thing we learned was the shuffle. The shuffle, again, is just the first part, front part of your foot, not this part, only this part. And we start up, and we go out and back. We hit out and back and up, out, back and up. Got it? Okay, so I want you to take that information, the vocabulary, and I want you to be a toddler for a few months and just use that and explore.
it's impressive. You know, the beauty of what I learned today really is that this is binary. It's very simple. You have 2 feet.
Yeah.
And your feet has the front and the heel, the front and the back part. So we're all like 2 feet, 2 parts of the feet, and you always, it's just like walking, one after the other. And only with those very simple elements, the vocabulary that you can create is infinite.
Exactly.
It's just very simple. The ingredients at hand are very simple, and they are not that different from walking.
Yeah, exactly.
One after the other, one after the other.
Yeah.
That's impressive. We have Jessica, if I'm not mistaken, we have here a participant who wants to show us. She's learning tap, and she wants to ask a question or show us.
Okay, I got my computer so I can see better.
Okay, Mia, are you there with us?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, Mia. How are you doing?
Hey, Mia.
Hi. Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
Good.
So tell us, Mia, you wanted to show us. You wanted to get some tips from DeWitt. You want to show us what you're working on?
I mean, I'm not really working on anything because since the studio's closed, and like, I mean, but there are a bunch of steps that I don't know, but like, I would love to learn a bunch of steps from him, but I mean.
So I would say the first thing I would say is like I said before, and I'm going to show you. The most successful people at any craft that they do is they think outside of the box, and they take what they already know and try to expand it to the vast ends of the spectrum. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what do I mean by that? So something that's simple. I'm not going to do anything that I didn't show everybody earlier. For example, a step. Now I can create a whole bunch of different sounds just from stepping like this. It depends on, again, the placement and how, you know, the effect that I'm going for. So I can go. I can do all these different things, and it's just all I'm doing is stepping. And from that, I think is most important to start to learn and start to grow and creating steps. If you have to really focus on what you have first. A lot of times we learn something in a very one-dimensional way, and then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So for example, you learn to shuffle, and I see this happen all the time. You learn shuffles, and then you think, okay, I learned to shuffle, that's it. Not realizing that there's so many other things to explore in that one shuffle.
Yeah.
You can go all around, and they all sound different, no matter where you put that shuffle. And am I acting in the front? You can do all these different things, and that's all with the shuffle. So I say whenever exploring and really trying to learn new steps, take what you already know and try to just turn it inside out. Yeah. And try to just take it to the extreme. Things that you think no one has ever thought of, and try to just take what you already know and expand. Once you fill up that box, then you can go outside the box. But a lot of times we try to go outside the box without filling up that box that we already have. You know, right. And not a box to contain you, but just a box of information. I mean, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
But you're good. I've seen you dance, so I know you're good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just gotta explore what you already know and just push it to the limit.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Mia, for participating. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. So
thank you.
Do we? I mean, it's just, again, it really interesting what you're saying, that before you sort of go to the next level, try to be a master of the level you're in. You know, before adding another letter to the vocabulary, like
Right.
know everything you can do with 4 letters, then
Yeah.
add another letters. Now everything you can do with 5 letters. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really a great visual way of thinking how to continue the learning process.
Absolutely. I mean, again, it's like kids, you know, when all you know is mom.
Right.
Different ways that they can say mom, and the moms know what they mean by how they say mom. Even to this day, you know, they know, they understand, and it's all they're saying is mom. That's it. You know?
Oh, I know that very well. So before we take some more questions from the audience, there is something about you that I find really exciting, which is that you really are an entrepreneur.
Oh.
You've carved your own way into the arts world. You've managed to define yourself in a way, because you know the problem is that the industry love to have us in boxes. Oh, yeah. You're an actor, you're a singer dancer, you're a director, you are a, which it's if you look at the whole history of theater, it's absurd that we've never been boxed. And
Right.
You are an artist who have never allow yourself to be defined in that way, and in fact you're an entrepreneur, and you've created your own path. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, honestly, it's failure. Failure makes you stronger, and it helps you find other ways. And the thing is, I've always been a hard worker, and I think that's very important. And one thing I learned early, and I learned this from my grandfather, is that you work hard, you pay your bills, and you be nice to people. Those are like the things he say. He told me. So those are things that are automatic, no matter what you do, no matter if you're an artist, no matter if you're a carpenter, a doctor, or whatever it is, you have to work hard, you have to pay the bills. And so what I learned early, and I'm thankful for that, is that I didn't try to connect my art with paying the bills. And what do I mean by that? I mean that I knew that I had to pay the bills no matter what was going on artistically for me. So I made sure that I worked hard to make sure that I had the money I had to pay the bills so that I could be artistic and not have to melt the two and compromise what I felt was right. And so if that means that I have to do jobs that aren't necessarily directly connected to my artistic vision, then that's okay, because I have to there's certain things you have to take care of in life first. And that allowed me to be able to do what I wanted to do artistically and to really grow.
So you know, concepts that are so extraordinary that you don't see a lot, like, you know, Jazz at Lincoln Center collaborating with you on a tap / music number. Like, how does that come about?
So basically, this was a group that Erica Von Kleist is my partner, and she actually worked with Jazz at Lincoln Center for a long time and still does over there. And we got together and we met actually in Montana, of all places.
That's where Jessica Kashubi is from, our general manager.
From Whitefish, Montana. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just gonna chime in here. Yeah, great.
Yeah, so we met out there, and we had realized that we had both worked with Wynton and the orchestra in Jazz at Lincoln Center for, maybe over 15 years now, or maybe around 15 years. And so we said we wanted to record an album together. And tap is nothing new to Jazz at Lincoln Center. There's been tap at Jazz at Lincoln Center for years. I mean, there was a famous guy named Bunny Briggs who did something over there. Savion Glover has done stuff over there. I mean, tap has been there. However, they've never actually recorded a tap and jazz album at Dizzy's Club at Jazz at Lincoln Center. It just never has happened. I don't even think they recorded any album over there with tap dancing before. And so Eric and I, we just we really believed in the music that we wrote, and we wanted to do it at Dizzy's because that was a place. Jazz at Lincoln Center was a place that really opened their arms to us when we were young. I mean, Wynton put me on stage a week after I met him.
Oh my God.
And it was only because myself and a friend went to go see a show at Jazz at Lincoln Center, and we snuck backstage to see Wynton in the orchestra, not realizing that Wynton always opens his doors to students and young people. And we didn't realize that, so we thought we were being sneaky by going back there, but the truth of the matter is that he would have let us back there anyway. And we were just in the hallway, and we said, hey, we're tap dancers, and that was awesome. And, I've been a fan of Wynton since I was in junior high school because I was in the jazz band. And my mom had bought me a book about Wynton Marsalis, and it had a CD and everything. And so
what instrument did you play on the jazz
drums?
band?
I played drums. Yeah.
Well, it's the cousin of tap, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's the same vocabulary, right?
Yeah. So we danced for him in the hallway backstage at Jazz and he was like, "Oh wow, man, you guys really got it. Like that's cool." And he said, "Take my number." And I said, "Oh, of course." And I called him the next day. And he said, "Yeah, man, you guys really got something going there. Keep it up. Really like what you're doing." And I never thought anything of it. He called us a week later and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, nothing. Just hanging out." He said, "All right, well, come over to the theater." And we were like, "All right, cool." So we go over to the theater, and it was their sound check. We get on stage, and he says, "Yeah, try to dance on this number. See how you guys like it." So we're up there, we're dancing on the number. He said, "Cool, yeah, all right. Well, you ready to do it tonight?" And I said, "What?" I said, "Do what?" He said, "You guys are going to be in the show tonight." And I'm like, "No way." And this was, this is probably the first time I've danced in front of thousands of people before. It was crazy. And it was just like on a whim. And that's why it's funny because I always tell my students to be prepared. Like, always be prepared. Be prepared now. Like, don't wait.
You never know when that call is going to happen.
Never know. It's crazy.
I met Wynton, and I had a little bit. We worked together on a project maybe 7-8 years ago. I was the assistant director of sort of wasn't really a play, wasn't a benefit. It was one of the city centers encore type of shows.
Yeah.
John Doyle was directing, and it was sort of an homage to Sondheim with Wynton Marsalis and the band.
Oh, okay.
And so I went quite a few times to the theater. It performed at City Center, but we did a few rehearsals at Jazz. And there's something about those. I mean, listen, and we're in the professional world. We know a lot of musicians, but there's something about them that it's like they're superheroes. Like they are. It's a complete. I mean, I still remember my shock at just see them work. And Wynton, by the way, the nicest guy in town, extremely humble. He would sit down and ask you, and I was like, I'm just the assistant director. You know what I mean? Like, but really, like his memory, that project really was quite extraordinary.
Wow.
But anyways, so before we invite a few questions from the audience, tell us a little bit of like now you know your vocabulary very well. How do you get more inspiration? Or how do you keep growing? Where do you go for inspiration and for new ideas?
I just try to look and listen to everything around me. I'm a big jazz fan. I always try to start my morning off with jazz. And the only reason, why is because it allows for creativity. It just naturally has that ability to open up your creative side of your mind. And, if you really sit back and listen and be still, as my grandfather used to always say, just be still, you'd be surprised about the things around you that can influence you. I mean, I hear stuff all the time. It's it's kind of hard to turn it off. I mean, I just hear rhythm everywhere, and I hear I hear a song. Like nowadays they're sampling everything, and it's so hard for me to hear a song without hearing, oh, I know where they got that from, or they got this from. And it's just, I don't know, it's weird. It's just something that I'm just wired that way. But I try to take every and anything I do and try to see how it fits into whatever I'm doing. It doesn't have to be musical. I mean, even watching TV, even watching the rhythm of the way somebody says something, or, the rhythm of a certain language. And I think this just what my teacher used to tell us when we were kids is, being an artist is a lifestyle. And I never understood that. I never completely understood that until I got older. And I was like, oh, that's what they mean. It's something that's 24/7, You can punch out, but it's not a 9 to 5. It's not like I go in at 9, I work from 5 to 5, I punch out, and then that's it. It's like, no, you got to watch what you eat, you got to watch your weight, you got to watch, what you're putting inside of your head and things you're listening to, what you're watching, because all that stuff affects what you do. So I try to make sure everything I do, I could somehow use a little bit of it to make myself better. It's not as an artist, as a person,
Yes, it's not a 9 to 5. You said it. It never ends. You're an artist from when you wake up until, you during your dreams, you're an artist. I mean,
absolutely.
It's a lifestyle indeed. Well, what a great segue to invite the audience to ask questions. There's a few ways you can ask questions. You can digitally raise your hand and we'll bring you up. It's a button below that you can raise your hand.
Nice.
Yes. And Karen Daniels, raise your hand. We'll go to you in a second. Or there's a Q&A section. You can just type your question there. So let's go to Karen. Let's bring Karen in. Okay.
Hi, I'm so proud of DeWitt. Hi, DeWitt.
Oh, Miss Daniels. Okay, okay. Hold up. So this is Miss Karen Daniels. And this is the person that introduced me to tap dancing.
Oh my God, you're kidding me!
Come on.
This is my movement teacher from high school, and Miss Karen Daniels. It was so funny because she realized how I took a liking to tap, and she exposed me. She brought me. She's the one that took me to see Bringing the Noise and Bringing the Funk.
Oh my God.
She's the one that gave me all those VHSs that I used to watch at home and get in front of the TV. She was the one that gave those to me. Okay. And she just kept pushing me to dance and be better. And I would not be dancing if it wasn't for Miss Karen Daniels.
Oh, I'm so proud of you, DeWitt.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Everything you're saying, I'm going to depart to my students and wish you all the best on your new family.
All right. Thank you.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Yes.
And Keziah's right here with me, so she's listening too.
Oh, good. Hey, Keziah.
This is so beautiful.
Hi. We love you. Thank you for this.
Love you too.
Listen, I want to ask a question to Ms. Daniels. Tell me, what is your secret? I've now become a teacher. What is your secret to motivate, your students? There's no DeWitt without a Ms. Daniels. So what is your secret?
I think the big secret is, first of all, love, really love. And as DeWitt said, kindness and being a good person, and exposure, exposing students to think out the box and do some things on their own, but yet, hone down their craft. So it's a mixture of out the box, in the box, and keeping yourself just open and, trying to keep it together in terms of what it is that you can create along with what the teacher is giving you. You know what I mean? And like he said, going out there, try. He went backstage to Marsalis and look what happened.
That's right. You have to have guts. You have to. That's right.
Use your resources and have guts.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Daniels. It was a pleasure meeting you. And this is a beautiful moment that
thank you.
We're all very happy we took a part of.
Thank
you very much. All right. That was awesome.
That's crazy.
All right. Do we have any other questions? Anybody wants to raise their hand or ask a question in the Q&A section? This is the moment. Meanwhile, Jessica is asking, tell us a little bit about the character that you played on A Wonderful World, which is Lincoln Perry, also known as Stepin Fetchit.
You know, it's funny because a lot of times your initial response to something, and what I'm learning is that if it's to pull away, you should be running straight towards it. And when I first got the call from my agent about even auditioning for Stepin Fetchit, I pulled back, and only because I know the historical connotation, for lack of a better word, which comes along with that character, and it frightened me. It definitely frightened me because I knew all about Stepin Fetchit. I know all about Stepin Fetchit. I thought I knew all about Stepin Fetchit, and it was something that wasn't pretty. And my agent convinced me to go in, and I went in. And, you know, I did the audition. I still had my apprehension about it. And then I started to do my research. Even before I knew, you know, I had the gig, you know, this was right after the audition. It had the same feeling that I did when I started tap dancing. And I said, you know what? I have to do my research. I can't let my image of what other people have put on me to know exactly what this is. And so I did my research about Stepin, and I started getting excited. I started to get excited, and I learned so much that I did not know about him. And, you know, I was even more excited when I got the call that I got the part. And he is just an extraordinary individual that unfortunately the world was not ready for his genius and did not completely understand his genius. And what the sad thing about it is his own people really didn't understand his genius. The people he was doing it for didn't understand it, and to this day, a lot of them don't understand it. Fortunately, there are some scholars and some people who have been able to do the research and understand what he really was able to accomplish and to do. But a lot of people, I find myself explaining to people all the time about Stepin, and they're blown away. So it was just things happen for a reason. I'm so excited and so happy that my agent pushed me to go in, and that, you know, casting even thought of me to come in for the role. And, you know, just playing him on stage every night, I find something different, and I'm just like, man, this guy's amazing. I mean, you know, look him up, and yeah, I can't wait for you guys to see him in the show. I mean, he's something special. He really is.
And hopefully people will be able to see you doing Lincoln Perry, Stepin Fetchit.
Yeah. Yes.
At some point in the next, let's hope it's months and not years, but whenever it is, the Colony Theater is hibernating the play. There, you know, all the set is as you left it. Your wig, your hat, everything is as you left it. We've not moved your mic. We've not moved anything. And we said that it'll all stay there until we're allowed to continue with the show, because it was really. Yeah. It's a really extraordinary, and that scene, by the way, that moment is really when you know you're watching a musical, that it's just not one of those jukebox musicals, etc. Because Oren Squire decided that this was going to be a political show, that this is going to be a show that punches, that bites back, and that scene, that whole scene is really. One of the moments that conversation between the two of them is a moment that you're not watching the type of show that you thought you were going to watch.
Yeah, Oren makes it easy. He's such a great writer. He really makes it easy. Yeah.
Oren is, yeah. I mean, and we're proud of him. Oren is from Miami. He's Miami-born town from Opaloka, and so Miami New Drama has been waving his flag. This is the second world premiere we've done with him, and then we had in theory one more for next season, but we'll see when does that happen. So listen, if there's any more questions, we can. Jess, why don't you play the last part of that clip, so people can continue seeing the genius of DeWitt.
A decade straight, I made a killing doing the thing white folks been doing to us and doing it better than them. Ha! And all with a smile.
Well, okay. Maybe I can try smiling a little more.
When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. The entire world. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring out the rain. So quit your frowning, be happy again. When you're smiling, keep on smiling.
The whole world smiles with you.
Now watch this now. Go ahead, Lou, now. When you're smiling,
Keep on smiling.
the whole world smiles.
The whole world smiles.
The whole world smiles with you. That's it now, Lou. I think you got it.
Or you see that enthusiasm from the audience. I think we all share that. That was extraordinary. DeWitt, thank you so much for joining us in today's class. This was outstanding. I have only one functioning leg at the time, but I kind of want to put a shoe to it and just I guess
No,
you can do
you
it with
gotta
one
heal.
feet.
Have to heal.
Thank you so much for this extraordinary class. If there's interest, we would love to do even smaller workshop with you and a few other people. So stay tuned for those who are interested. We'll also be sharing the link of where you can get your hands on the collaboration between Jazz at Lincoln Center and DeWitt Fleming. And we look forward most of all to see you in person at the stage of the Colony Theater, driving people insane as we just saw.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you very much, DeWitt. Have a lovely day.
All right, you too.
All right, thanks everyone for participating. Stay tuned, go to colony.org. There's a ton of new classes that were just posted, and we'd love to have you there for the next ones. Both in Spanish and in English. We have now bilingual classes. All right. Thanks everyone. Bye.